Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to talk about XELA Technologies. I've had a couple of questions on YouTube and it's also been talked about in the Patreon group, and one of my Patreons was nice enough to share this article with me. I'm assuming that is all the hubbub that's been going on lately with XELA Technologies. So let's get into this article. It says that XELA Technologies announces an increase in the consideration being offered for shares of common stock through the exchange offer to $1.25 of new notes per share. So this is the first that I am hearing about this. I haven't messed with XELA in a while. I believe I traded it twice in the past, and I think they were both profitable trades, but I am not a current shareholder of XELA at the moment. But it says shareholders can now exchange blocks of 20 shares of common stock into a tradable $25 note due 2029 with 6% annual interest rate. So seems like it's just a bond for the most part. I am not a bond investor or trader, so this probably would not interest me, and especially when you see that it goes all the way to 2029. That's a lot of time for XELA, for things to go wrong with XELA and potentially, default on this. But it says the offering price represents a 127% premium to the closing share price of 55 cents on January 25th. And last I checked, it was trading right around 90 cents, so it's definitely a lot higher than the 55 cents. But it says that shares tendered will be retired, reducing the share count by approximately 30%. And the float was rather low last time I checked, so that would make it an even lower float. So that would actually be attractive if you were a shareholder, the fact that they were going to be retiring these shares. And it says the participating shareholders should instruct their broker to tender their shares well before the expiration time of 11:59 Eastern Standard Time on February the 24th of 2022 to give their broker enough time to tender the shares. So there's still a few weeks left on this offer. So if you did want to get in on it, which honestly I don't know why you would, you still have time. But actually, let's get into some of XELA's numbers. All right, so jumping over here to Seeking Alpha, I just want to revisit some of their numbers because I haven't looked into XELA in a very long time. I was trading it way back here when it was very popular, when the stock was running. And I don't remember enough back then to make me want to be a long-term shareholder. But if you are and you have done your research and I am missing something very exciting, please leave it down there in the comment section for me. I am all ears if there is something big brewing with XELA. But just looking into some of their other numbers right here, we can see short interest is only around 2 3/4%, not that big of a deal. But the market cap has fallen all the way down to 281 million. So from a market cap perspective, this company is getting rather cheap. And if we scroll down to their revenue, we can see their revenue had been tapering off, but is expected to start growing again in 2022. So if we look down at their earnings per share, and this is on the quarterly basis, you can see that it is trending in the right direction for sure. And looking at their earnings estimates, you can see it's probably going to be 2023 by the earliest that they're going to get earnings. They're going to get EPS positive, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they can beat this number right here and actually get to profitability on by 2023, because they're probably going to be growing a little bit faster than this number right here. But scrolling down and looking at some of their other numbers, you can see their total debt is 1.52 billion, so that is not exciting me at all. And their cash is 146 million. That's a decent amount of cash that they have, but you got to remember with these notes, that's going to be adding more interest that they're going to have to be on the hook for, so that is not a good sign. And then, of course, looking at the ownership, institution owns 6%. That's what you would expect with a stock as cheap as XELA. Usually don't see a whole heck of a lot when they get under $1. And the insiders only own about 2% at the moment. And I was actually going to check and see if there's been some insider buying. I like to check if there's insider buying when the stock gets really cheap, and I'll have to check that later. And the public owns about 88% is and that's what you would expect with a stock this cheap. But looking at the numbers, not very thrilled with the amount of debt that they have, but I don't know. I would like to see the revenue growing a little bit faster than it is, but of course these are just estimates going forward, so you definitely want to keep an eye on XELA. But all in all, Not getting me very excited at the moment, but let's get into their chart. All right, well, jumping over to my TC2000 charting software, where you can see I have the daily chart of XELA Technologies up right now. But before I get into any of this, please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. All this is for entertainment purposes only, so please make all of your own trading decisions. With that being said, I do have a Patreon group, so if you'd like to join our small trading community, I do have a link down there in the description. It's only $10 a month. I'm in the Discord every single day, and I also put up a video on the Patreon page before every trading day showing you what stocks I am watching for that day and if I see anything else significant going on in the market. But getting into this chart for XELA, it kind of makes me feel bad that the market isn't doing this anymore. I kind of missed the days several months ago when swing trades were working so well. We will eventually get back to a market where the swing trades start working better. But right now, man, every swing trade just seems like it's getting chopped to pieces. But hopefully that changes soon. But let's get to the current action in XELA. We can see XELA has a ton of volume that's been pouring into the stock, and this is probably the trade that I would like to have seen, but unfortunately I missed it. This nice big sharp move above all these moving averages, then a pullback to the 8-period exponential moving average, and then the round up. I call these things J hooks, and once they start holding that 8-period exponential moving average and start rounding up, they're usually going to take out the previous pivot and make a new high, at least a new relative high, and that's where you can try to catch that second swing in these moves off of bottoms like XELA has made. But we can see XELA has run into this blue line, this 50-period simple moving average, which usually is pretty tough to get through, and that is proving to be tough to get through for XELA at the moment. And looking at this chart, you can see there is a lot of topping tails that are forming, and this usually precedes a decent pullback in the stock. Let me see if I can get this stuff to work. But you can see that it looks like it is getting weaker. So this is not the time where I would be buying this stock. I would probably wait for a pullback. Let me get these things out of here. They're annoying me. But and just by the way this thing is looking, I'm guessing we're probably going to have a little bit of a pullback, and we want this to hold that 8-period exponential moving average if it can. And going to the 15-minute chart, let's see if we can look under the hood and find some decent levels for XELA. We can certainly see that it's in this triangle consolidation formation at the moment, which is a good sign unless it breaks down through the bottom of it. It looks like it is threatening to do so right now. But, if you back the chart out a little bit, you can definitely see that this is the strongest area of support on the chart right now. I would call it between probably 72 cents and 75 cents. So this is the logical area where I would expect to bounce if it did break down through it, and also probably coincides with this trend line right here. So that's converging right in this area right here. So I think there is a decent chance that if XELA does break down through this consolidation, we could get a bounce from right here. So this looks like a logical area to have a buy order for me anyway, because we also have this support area right down here, not far below it. So I could place my stop just a little bit below this support, and the chances are if we do get a bounce, it's probably going to bounce all the way up here to this rising trend line at the least. So, I mean, that looks like a pretty decent risk-reward trade for me just looking at this chart. But let's take a look at the long-term. Let me see if I can get this stuff out here. Let's take a look at the long-term chart on XELA. Let's jump over to the weekly chart. See if we can extrapolate anything from this chart. We can see that XELA is above that 8-period exponential moving average at the moment. It's not high above it, but it is holding above it. And normally when a stock can hold above that 8-period exponential moving average on the weekly chart, you usually end up getting some follow through to the upside. So that, of course, is good news for XELA for its long-term trend. And the fact that we got, all this volume that's been coming in over the last couple of weeks, if we can hold this 8-period exponential moving average, I think there's a pretty good possibility it could challenge this 50-period simple moving average on the weekly chart, and that's at around $1.85-ish, and that's more than a double from the current level. So that's a nice trade potential if it can hold above that 8-period exponential moving average. So right now is a very pivotal time in XELA's chart. But, you know, I think that if it can break above that 50-period simple moving average on the daily chart, it's probably going to be able to hold this moving average, and that bodes well for the long-term trend. Now, today, unfortunately, I didn't make any trades, so I don't really have any trades to show you. I like to show you all the trades that I made at the end of my videos, and like I said, there is nothing there, so that is all for this one. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave it down there in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, and until next time, see ya.